What's happening, guys, and welcome back to another Sunday Scan, the final Sunday Scan of 2024. I can't believe it. The year has flown by. There's just been so much action. We've been able to cover a lot. We've had on a lot of great guests, and it's just been a ton of fun. And I think 2025 is going to be even more fun and more wild in the market. So it's just going to be me on Scan today. I'll run through a bunch of charts that have been in play for the last week, and then I'll go over a few main watches later on. But around this time of the year, when the year's ending, the new year's starting, I tend to try to be very observant rather than very involved in planning. And what I mean by that is that around this time of the year, you'll have a lot of the big players start to make adjustments to their books. And this can be for tax purposes. This can be for locking in performance metrics or things like that. But you can have names like Palantir or from other names that have been runners the entire year, some of the best performers. And some people who hold big chunks of that might be hanging on until the new year, and then maybe they'll that's when they want to sell so that they can incur the tax consequences for the following year. So you can have a lot of adjustments. So I just try to be very observant around this time. And that is something that I will be commenting on live in Investors Underground. So make sure that you are there for that. So I'll just run through a couple of these charts now, and I'll keep it pretty brief today. And again, the focus is going to be on observing what's going to take place in the market over the next couple of weeks versus just planning on what I want to happen. But there's definitely a lot of sectors, a lot of trades setting up. So there should be plenty of opportunity, both on the long side and on the short side. And then the final note before I kind of get into some of these charts is that, in 2025, really focus on the changes that you want to make as a trader and as a person. And it's got a little bit cliche with, the New Year's resolutions and everything like that, but they matter and they work. And if you plan, what is the general direction that you want your trading to go? What are the things that you need to address? Are there changes that you have to make to your trading process? Are there changes that you have to make, to yourself with discipline, or with us spending more time scanning, or spending more time learning setups, or refining setups, or controlling your risk, or focusing on how to find, bigger opportunities, or aligning yourself with the market? All these things really matter. So focus on, what do you need to change for the upcoming year? And then what have you done really well? And what can you kind of lean into and do better? And that's kind of the process of being a trader. It's, it's yourself, it's the market, and it's the setups and kind of how you execute those setups that all come together. And it's always changing. It's always, it requires a need to adapt. So if you struggled in 2024, figure out why was that? Were you being stubborn? Were you trying to trade, a rigid plan as opposed to, being able to adjust that a little bit on the fly? And whatever that is for you, I would suggest you write those things down and then keep them close to your desk while you trade. And I think that those things can help to really progress you in your trading journey. So with that being said, let's get into a couple of charts, and I'm just going to cover these very briefly. I more want to put these charts on your radar of what has been in play, because the things that have range, the things that have volume, the things that are sector driven, that have a lot of attention, they are the stocks that really offer the most opportunities. And the same stock, the same chart can set up, 5 or 6 or 7 different ways, depending on what your style is. So instead of me saying, this is like how you should be trading this, I just want to basically put these on your radar so that you and your setups and your style can, possibly be aligned with that, because the way that I might trade them might be a little bit different than how you might trade them, might be different how Nate or Judah or someone else may trade them. So, just to try to get setups that align with yourself. Think about, do you like to trade large caps or small caps? Do you like to trade trends? A series of higher lows and higher highs, or lower highs and lower lows? Do you like mean reversion plays where you're waiting for parabolic setups or for a failed follow through and to go down there? So these are just a couple of questions to really ask yourself, so that when you see these charts, you can say, how would I like to participate in this move? There's so many different ways to skin the cat here. So I would encourage you to get specific, to refine your setups, and then to always learn new setups as well. And on Investors Underground YouTube's page, there's plenty of setups that you can learn on there for free. So let's get right into it. The first stock I want to cover was this RUM. So they had a deal over the last week or so with Tether. Tether's making a 750 million, I think that's the correct amount, million in investment in the company, and kind of a partnership. They want to get more involved with some of the crypto payment systems and things like that. So basically had a double off of the area where it was consolidating, and more than double off of prior areas. But this has had a huge increase in volume and in range. So that was one that was definitely in play over the last week. And again, there's ways to play it on the long side, whether you're looking at breaking news types of trades, or whether you think that the range should have been very high and you can participate on the long side, or if you're waiting for like those exhaustion candles and some failed follow through to see if you can get a short setup, and then use some kind of risk level to participate in that. The next one, IONQ, quantum sector still going nuts. And last week, Ariel and I talked about kind of a separation between some of the better names and some of the worst names, and some that were, approaching, like going up to a capitulation area, and some that were more steady trenders, and then some that already had a capitulation and now they're staying more heavy. So IONQ, this has been just a great example to really show like the trends. And we've talked about it, here and here, when you have like a steady variance and then, it starts to change. And that just means that this trend is changing. And you had, a big dip and then a big rip. And so now that's range expansion. And now you have a new trend with higher range. And then we were saying over here, you could have two situations where either it just starts to break down, failed follow through and retraces, or you have a move like this where it just dips and rips back up, and now you have an even higher variance of range. So some of these charts are just, excellent examples to show concepts and ideas. RGTI, and again, I think a couple of weeks ago, I compared IONQ and RGTI to kind of like the personalities of stocks of almost like NVIDIA and SMCI, not like the fundamentals at all, but more, how NVIDIA was kind of a steady trender for most of last year, and SMCI had much higher highs and much lower lows, just like the variance of that was a lot greater. And I see RGTI being similar to that. So it's great to note that on the front side of the, the sector move while it's still running. And then as we get into more, parabolic moves and possibly some capitulations, don't underestimate the unwind when the sectors turn, because again, quantum computing, that has been one of the hottest sectors of the last quarter. And so as you get into the new year, we have to see, are, the funds that have been hiding out in here are driving these things up. They have huge gains that they're sitting on. Are they going to, take profits in the new year? Or are they going to add to it? Or we don't know what's going to happen yet, but there's a lot of possibilities for some huge moves. So it's good to have all these names kind of on your radar and on a watch list, and especially if you're trading sector or thematic trends, to have multiple names up, not just one name, because it's the sector itself is almost like a stock where it's like, how's the sector doing? And then you can basically break into what pieces of that sector are the weakest, what are the strongest, and then you can kind of align your strategy with that. The next one, LAES. So this had some news that they're working on some post quantum cryptography stuff. So, of course, the headlines are aligned with the sectors and all the algo trigger words and everything like that. But this had a really nice move from, sub dollar all the way up to 10 or 11 or so. And you've seen a lot of these kind of 10x moves and some 20x moves in this space. So again, this sector is rocking and rolling, and whether you're buying dips along the way on the long side, or if you're just waiting for those big capitulation days and then to see if that was the end of the move and we start to get some failed follow through, plenty of opportunity here on both sides. PDYN. So another, sector theme that has been really in play is like the AI with like the drones or the, electric vehicles, the EVTOL, the electric vehicle takeoff and landing kind of sector. So lots of new, thematic trends. And it's very similar to like 2021 or 2020, when you just have these kind of like retail crowded themes that, they have some kind of narrative behind them. They have press releases. And as long as money's flowing in there and people are driving it up, they are great sectors to participate in. And again, it's either, are you trying to play this on the long side where you're waiting for, maybe press releases or some consolidation points where you have a tight risk and then you're looking for an upside move? Or if you're on the short side, you're either, kind of scalping on the short side if you're doing it while it's still trending higher, or if you're waiting for those big capitulation days to the upside, or like a big failed follow through on the downside to really get some of that retracement. And, you don't have to be first on these names. They have so much range. In a year from now, a lot of these names that are up 10x, they'll maybe retrace 50, 75%, 80%. It really just depends on the sector of the trade. So kind of picking your times to participate is key. RCAT, so very same, themes with the drones, the autonomous vehicles and things like that. Just another example of a stock in play in that sector. And it helps to have, a couple of these names up on your screen at the same time. ACHR, same thing. You can tell just, a lot of volume. That's something I like to look at for theme or trends changes, is basically if something is changing, what about it is changing? And so obviously the chart is changing, the volume's changing, the news is changing, the market's changing. You have several themes running. So I always look for, what are the changes, and then keep a note of that. And then, if the volume starts to dry up or if the chart starts to break down a little bit, then you have another kind of trend shift in that. And that's a great way to kind of keep tabs on a sector of, this all looks pretty similar, big moves, big variance, big volume. And so before I would expect something different, I'd look for one of those variables to change. And then this is kind of like a robotics theme. So again, this is more just a stock that has been in play. I'm not saying that this is on watch or anything. I think Nate had a great swing on this one, but just another example of robotics, electric vehicles and drones, and the small modular reactors with the nuclear stocks. Like all these different themes, it's just good to have a basket and a couple of names up to keep tabs on those sectors. So this has been a great performer over the last few weeks. And then, I'm going to get into a little bit about just bonds and bond yields just for a second, and then I'll get into some of the main watches. So TLT, this is the 20-year bond ETF, and we've seen that this is really selling off hard, especially into the end of the year. And maybe this will be one of those sectors where it kind of pukes out into the end of the year. And then to start the year, maybe you have some repositioning in bonds, because if they're at the lows, then towards the end of the year, if you have some funds that want bond exposure, it's a lot easier to have gains if you're getting in towards the lows and like a new trend, new positioning throughout the year. So we could have maybe a final puke into the end of the year, the last day or so, and then maybe you start to have some mean reversion up or some rallying as the new year starts, and maybe you get some new positioning into the bond funds. But bond yields, they always affect somewhere in the market, and sometimes it's with things like IWM, or sometimes it's with certain sectors and small caps, or with banking or things like that. But it's just good to keep on watch, especially for the beginning of the year. And so those are most of the names that I wanted to cover for just kind of like the playback or covering the stocks in play. And I'm going to do a very short section on just the main watches for the week, but really it's going to be about observing things this week, not so much planning things. And so with that, I will give the disclaimer that I'm not a financial advisor, and these are not buy or sell recommendations. Everything that I talk about is for informational and educational purposes only. Now let's get right into the main watches. So QUBT, we talked about in the quantum sector, the relative strength, relative weakness, and this is the name that really isn't even involved in the quantum computing, but because it has, the name, clearly it is caught up in the sector. So this had a huge capitulation move last week, or the week before, and that is kind of like the trend or the sector high. That's kind of like the thesis with it. And so now what you have when you have these rallies, you're basically looking for like a big clear out move. And what a clear out move really is, it's, you have a lot of people long and short in a trend or in a move. And what you're looking for in a clear out move is for one side of those participants to basically, be reset. And so, like, if you have a lot of people who are, shorting this and it's very crowded short, what you want is to see some kind of move where it spikes up. And basically, a lot of people who are short in here, they get stopped out. And so once you have, you have a big clear out move and you have a lot of people get stopped out, you're clearing out a lot of the crowded short, interest in there. And once you have those moves, then it kind of resets and you can have much smoother like unwinds after that happens because, it's not crowded anymore on the short side. So those clear out moves, basically a big swipe up, stop out a bunch of shorts, and then it's like a good time if you're, a fresh short or anything like that to possibly reposition and, looking for a further unwind. So QUBT is going to be on watch for me. If the puts are cheap enough, I will be looking at puts maybe a few weeks out. And that will be a main watch into the upcoming week, especially in the quantum sector. But I want to keep an eye on the other names as well. Coin and MSTR, these are both on watch for possible downside. And again, what I'm thinking may happen is that as we get into the start of the new year, you could have some profit taking on the crypto sector. And some of these have been looking relatively weak on their charts. And then also MSTR had news that, they're trying to get a big share increase approved to buy more Bitcoin. And the whole thing with MSTR, it's like if you make like a big bet on Bitcoin and you're using leverage or you're using convertible notes or offerings, that a lot of that will work on the way up. But as soon as Bitcoin starts to struggle a little bit and you have things that are dilutive, especially with increasing the share count, the convertible notes, they're only dilutive once they get exercised, but I won't get too much into that. But basically, if you have dilution happening and you have a leverage bet on Bitcoin and Bitcoin starts to stall out or maybe have a flush, you can get some really sharp, nasty moves down in a name like this, especially when you have some bag holders in here now from that initial run up. So MSTR and Coin will be on watch for downside, most likely with puts into the week ahead for me. SOUN, this is, again, a name that has been on watch. The option activity has been very high with it. And I like to use that, those big key option areas in the stock for the upcoming week or so to basically get like a feel for where are the edges of this. So if they start buying the 28s or the 30s or something like that, I can assume that, if the stock is holding well, that's probably around the edge that it might trend up to. But I am looking for a big parabolic blow off move that I want to then position into with puts to get a big unwind at some point. And again, this could be a stock that a lot of funds have been hiding out in for the last several months. And towards the beginning of the year, we could have some rotation out of that. So I'll be looking to see if that matches up with my thesis. And then PLTR, this has been one of the best performers of 2024. And I think that we could have some profit taking into 2025, and that could cause a big trend change. So again, these are more, thoughts, and I'm going to be observing to see if the market is kind of confirming what I'm thinking. But, if it just stays bid and we have, more ramp up, then I'll change my thesis or I'll participate in another way. So those are really all the names that I want to go over on Sunday Scan this year. Thank you for everyone for watching Sunday Scan, and let me know in the comments what you would like to see more of in 2025. We have a huge variety of guests and styles and concepts and coverage. So just let me know what you guys want us to talk about on Sunday Scan for the upcoming year, and we will do that. It could be, more specific setups. It could be more, names that we cover. It could be a lot of different things. So just let me know in the comments, and I will see you all in 2025. God bless you. Have a great year, and I wish you the best in your trading. Thank you everyone for watching. If you want to trade live alongside me and other members of the Investors Underground community, then check out investorsunderground.com to see if becoming a member is the right decision for you. They have some of the best technology and a lot of great members there, all looking to help other people improve their trading. And also check out Investors Underground content on YouTube and Twitter. Thank you.